Welcome back to the All-Purpose Pod for an All-Purpose Life. I'm your host, Mr. U. Thank you for joining us again on They Call Me Mr. U, the podcast. Wherever you are today and however you listen to our show, thank you again for making us part of your morning, your day, and your week. We're your weekly mirror check before you go change the world. Man, last week was our very first live episode. Guess who's pumped? This guy right here. I was so excited, man. It went really well. Heard a lot of great things from you guys on how the show went, how you enjoyed the content. This week, another level, another notch. Good buddy of mine by the name of Bo. You know him from Football Talk with Bo. We're bringing him in here live this morning. Bo, good morning, baby. How you doing?
Good. How about you, man?
Doing fantastic. Man. Glad to have you on the show, man. Thanks for taking the time out, man. I want to give everybody a chance to kind of get to know you a little bit. I mean, everybody that loves your show, obviously, it's a really show. To be honest with you, haven't heard it, I highly recommend that. But if you haven't, I want to get a chance for everybody to kind of know a little bit about you, Bo. A little short story. Why'd you start Football Talk with Bo? Where'd it come from? Your background a little bit? Come on. Share with us, brother.
All right. So I started Football Talk with Bo because I played until I was 30, right? I played semi-pro and then pro arena ball. And then I got away from, the game and got a normal job just like anybody else. And after, a decade away from the game, I realized that I wanted to be closer to it again, and talking about it with awesome fans. It seemed like the best way to do it. So started the podcast and, relatively new at it, but it's been a ton of fun and people have been great. Probably one of the funner things about it is when people, I'm down here in Mexico currently, but when people come on vacation, they hit me up and we'll go watch games together. And that is really awesome to go watch games with, the entire NFL fan base is great.
Wow. So NFL Mexico we're talking about, right?
Yeah. I'm in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico currently, although we are moving back to the Pacific Northwest. So we'll be headed back to Seattle real soon.
Oh, I love it, man. I love it. Wow. That sounds like fun. The NFL trying to, probably going to discuss a little bit on the show too, but NFL trying to move a little bit of their product to Mexico. So that could be a awesome opportunity down there for you as well. Kind of working two sides there, huh? You like that?
Yeah. So I was really going to try and go to the Mexico City game this last year. And down here, getting games is a little bit interesting. So I always end up paying for Game Pass so I can watch all the games. And there was a pre-sale option to be able to get tickets before anybody else by being part of NFL Game Pass. And I wrote the date down wrong. So they went for sale the day before and they were sold out. They sold out 100,000 tickets in like 2 hours. And so I was just like, oh man, I don't even get to go. And Mexico City is only an hour flight away from here. So I was bummed, but it was me being dumb. I just wrote the wrong date down.
Oh man, Mexico's a growing market, man. That's going to be exciting, man. I can't wait to hear takes on that when they start getting really up and rolling down there. But we got a lot to talk about. To be honest with you, we not discussed it for a couple of weeks.
Yep.
Not sure we're going to get through the whole thing.
Definitely not going to get.
We got the topics, man. I want to just have fun with it and just enjoy it, man. I love sports. Like I was talking about last week on our first live episode, I got away from this for some reason. I'm doing podcasting about everything but some things that I love to, I really enjoy. So sports is back at the forefront again. I'm going to have fun with it. Yep. And it's starting with you, brother. So thanks for your help on this one. Let's go ahead and jump into the NIL situation. I know that's going to be one of those hot button issues. Still kind of it's still a hot button issue. People are still having issues with it. But I want to hear your thoughts about the amateur rules and just the NIL in general. I was thinking about the guy. I watch Michigan basketball, but I'm a Michigan football fan. I watch Michigan basketball, especially when they're in the NCAA, and I root for them in Syracuse because that's New York is my hometown and everything. But I was thinking about Hunter Dickinson and the story that was going on with him about, I don't know if you agree with it or not, but he left Michigan to go to, I think, Kansas, I think it was. And he did that because he felt like Michigan wasn't giving him enough money.
Yep. And
I tried to stay unbiased about stuff like this, but I mean, the guy had great offense, but his defense was, I don't want to say trash, but it was really, really bad. So, and it makes you wonder, okay, is this guy worth six figures? That's what he was asking for. Is this guy worth 6 figures or NIL issue to start with, or is this just something that it's a idea of personal preference? I don't know what it is, but I want to hear your thoughts on that and just what's been going on with the athletes and students, and they're not getting the same compensation. We kind of just jump into it, man. But share some of your thoughts, some research and stuff too. So,
so I mean, that one's interesting because at the end of the day, such a small percentage makes it to any of the given leagues, right? Mm-hmm. So if you have the opportunity to cash in on the NIL, I mean, you have to, right? Because at the end of the day, you don't know if you're going to make it to the league, especially if you have holes in your game where you could potentially a undrafted free agent or maybe a late round pick, which, let's be honest, rarely makes a team.
Right.
You know, that's a scenario where it's like, okay, you can either make nothing or you can work your way into a spot to make, 6 figures plus. Like, I can't hate on the kid for trying to make some money. I do think that the NIL and the transfer portal needs some regulation. Otherwise it's going to get way out of hand because I forget the kid that did it, but he's entered the transfer portal twice and there hasn't been a game yet. Right. So, I mean, there's no limitation to how many times you can hit the transfer portal. There's no real regulation on what the NIL is or what it means. So if they don't get some regulation on it, it's going to get out of hand in a hurry. But from the kids' perspective, I mean, get that money while you can, because I mean, you're going to get a good education regardless of which college you go to. So, and if you don't know if you're going to make it to the league, get the bag while you can.
Yeah, I think it's a tough one because if this is our athletes, that means it's about sports, right? So that means it's not just football. We talk about football because that's what we love the most out of all of the sports, probably, right? But what about the volleyball players? What about the people who are doing lacrosse? What about those guys? Is it going to be the same for them? Have you heard anything about that? Do you see an issue there? Because it feels to me like there's a problem with that because if the school, if it's a school in Texas, for example, we know that they do everything big. That's what they tell us anyways, except for the Dallas Cowboys, but different topic. But they do everything big, right? But in Texas, football is king.
For sure.
You don't really care about baseball. I mean, look at the Rangers attended. They don't really care about baseball as much. You know what I'm saying? So football is the big deal. But what happens with your volleyball program, your lacrosse program, your swimming program? Those guys have some money too, right? But it's not going to be equal. I mean, you understand where I'm going with that? I mean, it's kind of a problem. What do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, I believe the NIL is available for all of the sports. I don't think it was limited. I could be wrong, but I think it's across the board. The thing is there's not major TV contracts for men's indoor volleyball. I mean, there's not, right? So all of a sudden, because it's an NIL, the school isn't paying the athlete. It's advertisement essentially. And so if you're an advertiser, are you going to go with the star quarterback on a football team, or are you going to go with, a forward on a men's basketball or a men's, volleyball team that's on, ESPN, the Ocho, right? Like the channel nobody's going to see. And, so, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a value product. And that's where I think it can get out of hand because you're going to end up with some really weird dynamics in locker rooms where you have, a player that's probably got $1 million NIL thing. And then, a guy that's not that much less talented, he just doesn't have the media machine around him, is not signed with anything. And I almost think it'd be better if they didn't do the NIL and they just have the school pay the athlete, right? Get rid of the amateurism rule, pay the athlete. Similar to like an NFL contract, there's kind of a range for positions, right? Especially if the football teams are the ones that are carrying the load, because at the end of the day, they do for most of the sports programs anyway, right? A lot of the sports programs don't actually make any money. It's the TV contracts and everything, and the video games and all of that comes with college football that really carries the athletic department for most of these schools. Basketball is probably the one that's second for, schools like Duke and Gonzaga, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
But, at the end of the day, because it's not the school, they're not really doing anything to regulate it. And I think it can create some bad blood just within locker rooms, within, just within a team itself, which is why I kind of would like to see the amateurism go away and either the school pay them, be done with it, or allow those kids to be able to play in things like the XFL, USFL, especially those lower level kids that could potentially play in those leagues, get some better reps, maybe have a shot at the NFL while still being eligible to go to school instead of having a pro sport ruin their eligibility, right? So then if you did away with that, those kids get extra reps. Not only do they make the XFL, USFL product better, but then they're also better players when they come back to the college ranks. Because again, at the end of the day, it's 1% or 2% of college athletes actually make it to the pros. So, I mean, it's such a low number. Why would you penalize those kids from having a shot and making some money, especially in like a spring league?
This is not an easy topic. That's why I wanted to do it first.
Yep.
Because I have so many questions about this.
And that's why I said really for your list.
Yeah, I mean, there's almost no chance we can do all this stuff, but that's okay, man. Because I want to, have more time with you on future episodes. But it's kind of hard to understand it. So help me out with my ignorance with this. But it just seems like I'm talking personality as well as just basic tangible money here. It's like who pays in that situation? That scenario you laid out just now. You said the school's going to pay for it, but where are they getting the funds from? Who are they going to pay? Are they going to pay everybody? Because in the college locker room, I would imagine it's a lot different than in the NFL locker room. The quarterback probably gets the most money in most cases in the NFL. It's not really a secret. It's been posted. I mean, we talk about it on Twitter and fantasy football. We know what people are getting paid, so it's not really a secret. The linemen know what the quarterback's getting paid. Everybody knows. But I don't know if it's a problem in those settings or it's accepted practice. But in college, it feels different to me because they were going for a long time without having that. Then you had the influence of boosters and people coming in and offering those side deals. You know what? Which will take care of your mother if you decide to play for us when you get eligible. That kind of stuff that was going on before. But now with the NIL and this opportunity for everybody to get paid theoretically, how does that work? How in your scenario with the school paying, where's that money coming from, and who are they paying? Everybody, or are they paying based on performance? What's happening there?
Yeah, so the NIL is basically from outside advertising, really. So it's not technically the school paying for you. It's just each school has access to certain things, right? Because they have their boosters, they have their advertisers within their group and whatever. And so that's why you can see some schools are like, oh, I can pay for this, but maybe a different one can't, because it's some sort of advertisement groups that are associated with the school, but it's not the school, because then you're no longer a student athlete, you're an employer, or, an employee rather. So that's kind of the way that they masked how they're doing it. But at the end of the day, they're paying players. And the way that they're doing it right now is super unfair for somebody that's not even like deep in the depth chart, right? Like maybe a second string guy. He's not getting an NIL deal. Just not going to happen. He'll still see the field, but he's not going to get an NIL deal. He'll still be featured in, the NCAA football, PlayStation game, right? Like that name will still land in there, but he's not going to make any money from it. So it's one of those that it would almost be better if it was set up like the NFL in the way that there's a pay range, right? Like if you are looking at a starting quarterback, they're going to make somewhere between, $25 and $40 million, right? Depending on the talent level and, whatever, right? So
in college?
No, in the NFL. In the NFL.
I'm like, oh my God.
No, it is. Yeah, like it.
I'm like, Whoa.
I'd be signing up tomorrow. I'd change my name and find some eligibility. Like,
Yeah, I thought in the backyard. You kidding me?
yeah, right. But no. So if they did something like that in college, where it was the school that was paying for it, there's a range and a cap, right? Then all of a sudden, you're putting schools more on an even playing field as opposed to a school that's been dominant. So they have better boosters, they have better advertising budgets. They, all of a sudden those NIL contracts can be significantly different than, a Temple, right? Like I would bet that Alabama has some better NIL connections than Temple or, something like that, where it's a team that wins national championships versus one that loses by 60 half of the season.
Yeah, that's exactly. That's what I'm trying to go with it. So it sounds like the schools that are big name, I guess, they have. I don't understand all the inner workings. You understand it better than me, Bo, but it seems like they may have a better advantage in this situation than a smaller school.
I mean,
I don't, is it right?
Yeah, I mean, yes, but they always did, right? Because at the end of the day, if you go back to the old system where it was just normal recruiting, kids didn't get paid, they didn't really get anything. You look at a school like, Alabama and Georgia and, UCLA, stuff like that, where there's a lot of camera time, right? A lot of media attention around those schools. So if you are a higher level athlete, whether you wanted to go to Boise State or not, doesn't matter. If you want to make it to the league, you're going to go to one of those schools because they get airtime. That way you're not sending scouts your home videos of you working out and some highlight reel. They get to watch it in real time on Saturday afternoon. And so nothing really changed in that way. The only difference is some of those smaller schools may have some different abilities in the NIL that maybe in Alabama isn't willing to do, right? Because they just have an immense amount of talent that wants to go there anyway because of the screen time. So
yeah,
if somebody is just solidly searching for dollars, there may be a couple of small schools that can grab a 5-star recruit. The problem is they're leveraging money today versus making it to the league. Or if they're just like an extreme elite talent, they're like, well, I'm going to make it to the league anyway. I might as well make some extra money now. So, I mean, there are some scenarios at play there.
Yeah. I only have one question about it. It's going to be kind of clunky. I know it is because it's not totally thought out, but I feel as though just from the little bit that I researched, I think you researched more than I did on the topic, but on the little bit that I did, it feels like, because like you said, NIL is outside advertising. That means we're talking about a third party, not the player, not the school that they go to, talking about an outside party now. Yeah. It feels like there's a potential for a conflict of interest. You see that in this? Because it's like if the deal is who's the deal actually helping? Is the deal helping the athlete or is it helping the school? Because I can see why people would be upset about some of the NIL opportunities, because schools seem to benefit more. I mean, it's somewhat like a job, right? If you work for the government, they got get a big contract. I didn't really benefit from that. Only benefit was that maybe I had more years on the job because of the contract, the terms of the contract, a 4 or 5 year contract. But the government, the entity of the government, they benefited more, and I don't know how much. I don't know what they got and what my cut. What my cut of it is. I don't know how much the pie is. I just know what my slice is. In this case, with NIL, if it's outside advertisers, they work in a deal with the school, not the student. The school gives them a cut, I suppose, right? Is that how it works?
No. So my understanding on it, and this is another scenario where, like, I haven't read through all of the rules on it, so I could be wrong. But my understanding of it is that the deal is with the kid. So ultimately,
directly.
Yeah. It's how the school is getting away from saying they're paying the athlete, right? Because then all of a sudden you're an employee as opposed to a student. And so how they can keep their amateurism rule is they're not paying the athlete, they're paying for the likeness, right? They're paying for the image, the likeness, the person, not the athlete of the person. And so that's their workaround for their amateurism rule. And again, this is a scenario where it got shoved out there, and they really didn't think it through before it got put out. And so now you're running into scenarios where the girl that just won a national championship with LSU, I'm mind blanking her name, basketball. I could have told you like 2 seconds ago, but I'm mind blanking. But in any event, she got interviewed after the national championship about moving on to the WNBA, and she's like, "Oh, I'm in no hurry because I'm making more on my NIL than I would entering the league." So now it's even stunning talented players from going to, some of the leagues that don't have the top pay, right? Because, I mean, at the end of the day, unless you're playing in the NFL, NBA, MLB, every other league below that, even pro, they don't make the same money as those three leagues. I mean, those guys cash in, right? But below that, like, prime example, right? I played arena ball. So technically I played pro sports, right? Got a check to play. It's cool. It's something that you can be like, hey, I got paid to play this sports. Awesome. What they don't tell you is arena league means you still have a job because you don't make any money. And I mean, it is what it is. I get it. It all comes down to, advertisers, TV budget, screen time. Like it is what it is. I mean, games in arena at best are usually outside of a championship game on ESPN2 or, some like fifth version of TNT, like the TNT Gone edition. Like there's just no like you're technically on screen, but ain't nobody seeing it. So so it's it's different. It's different. So in a scenario where like she was saying, I make more on my NIL deal than going to the league, I don't doubt it, because what I was reading for her, I think it was over $1 million on her NIL. And if you're entering the WNBA, you're not making $1 million on your first year. It's not happening. Uh-huh. So if you can sustain that, $1 million a year for a few years before you enter the league, I mean, she has enough talent. She's going as soon as she runs out of eligibility. But now she's going to stay in school because why wouldn't you?
Was Angel Reese by any chance? Was that who that was? The same one that was kind of in a little controversy with the Kate, young lady.
Yeah, so it was her. I don't know why I was mind blanking her name, but but yeah, I mean, super talented. Actually, fun to watch, and because she kind of stirred things up, I'm sure that actually drove the price of her NIL up. But it's over $1 million, which is amazing, awesome for her. But when you figure your starting salary in the WNBA is going to be significantly lower than that, you're not going to make that jump before you have to.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm still baffled by maybe I didn't do enough reading on the Hunter Dickinson situation. I'm going to harp on him too much. He's just the most present example I think of. His beef with Michigan that they wouldn't pay him 6 figures. That's why he went to Kansas. So if the school's not doing the paying and the outside advertisers doing the paying, where's the strength of his issue against the school? I don't.
Because it means Kansas had access to someone that was willing to pay more, right? So it still kind of goes through the school without it coming from the school, right? So it's kind of a weird thing, and it again, it's still something I need to read more about. There's some elements to it that I haven't quite figured out. But it's basically not coming directly from the school, but it's coming through the school, right? So there's some shadiness to it. Is really the main takeaway.
You're not lying right now. That sounds very, very shady.
Yeah.
It's like a kid who needs money, but his dad said no, but his mom giving him the money.
Right?
Coming out the household account.
Hey, just keep asking until someone says yes, right?
Right. When the grandparents hit them up next, right?
Exactly.
I want to jump into the. I know it's kind of a transition to the minor league. We want to talk about that a little bit with the XFL, USFL, undrafted free agents and stuff. I want to lead into that a little bit. I know you had some thoughts about that. We were talking about over the past couple of weeks, but I was thinking about this in terms of the money too. Somebody posted a question. Like, I can't quote it verbatim, so I just put my own paraphrase on it. But somebody asked, "Would you rather be a high-level starter in the XFL or the USFL, starting and playing? Or would you rather be an NFL bench warmer?" And it just kind of created. I mean, I don't know what the intention of the post was, but for me and in our discussion today, it kind of sparked some things for me. I'm like, okay, wow. This is more of a personality question, in my opinion. I think this is about your personality. That's how you're going to answer the question. But it does speak to the impact you want to have and stuff. So, I know that the XFL, the USFL is a step up from, like minor league baseball, it's a step up from, Major League Baseball is a step up from minor league baseball. But even the person who has the biggest MLB fanaticism, they can hardly watch minor league baseball either. It's hard for them to watch. I mean, for me, it's hard to watch double A and single A. It's hard for me. So I barely enjoy it. But the XFL and the USFL is a little bit different. They have a former NFL talent there. They have coaches who no longer in the NFL that are there running some of the same plays, become to enjoy and love, and it can be exciting. But when it comes to what we're talking about with the finances and the money and everything, how do you see the so-called NFL minor leagues? We can just talk about it a little bit and see what your thoughts are there. But any questions to ask you about the high level starter in the USFL or a bench form in the NFL? I know my voice.
So you have a couple of questions there. So one, I do like those minor leagues. I hope they last. Historically, they haven't, but I hope they do. It adds some cool things to the league. Obviously, it gives some players a back door that didn't quite get there in college to be able to still have a chance at it outside of going to, the CFL or something like that. The other thing that's cool about it is it allows the NFL to try out some rules before they implement it into the league. So they can try some things out at the XFL, USFL level. And if it works, then they can adopt it. And if it doesn't, they'd be like, you know what? Fair enough. That didn't work. So I don't. Is
that what they do?
Yeah. They have done some testing in the XFL, and I think it was the AAF before it folded during COVID. So they did try out some rules during those that they ended up bringing in to the NFL. So I mean, like there's elements that are really helpful about having those lower leagues. Plus, once a college kid is done with their eligibility, right? They can either accept the fact that their football career is over, or they can try out for one of these minor league teams. And, if they do kind of continue to grow and stay viable, then all of a sudden, you see more teams in more cities, and it becomes a true like minor league feel, right? So it has a ways to go, but I do like that it's there. I think it's helpful. But we'll see. We'll see if they last, because again, historically they haven't. But to answer your other question, it's a tough question, right? But I would probably rather be a legend in the XFL, USFL, because you probably in that scenario win championships. And I like to win games, right? Like we all play to win, right? Like the old Herm Edwards, you play to win the game. So the other thing about that is it opens up a post-career career for you, because if you're a legend in any sport, the odds of you not only having rings because of that sport, but you get to go on to potential media type jobs, right? Like you can be an analyst and stuff like that. If you're a third string bench warmer in the NFL, You're not getting media contracts. You're not getting endorsement deals. Like, you're not getting those things because you're not on screen. Nobody even knows you're on the team, honestly. If you can tell me the third or fourth string, like give me a third or fourth string offensive guard. I can tell you I don't know who it is.
Give you a first string offensive guard.
That's what I'm saying, right? So like if you're one of those down the depth chart guys, yeah, like your post career is a job somewhere, right? Because you also didn't make any money in the league, because the minimum wage on the league is, it's decent, right? But you're also paying an agent and you're paying taxes in every state that you played in, right? So, I mean, if you're playing for the league minimum and you're there for, let's be honest, you're going to be there for your rookie contract and that's it. You made zero money in the league. So on the outside, the one shining thing that could happen is you could win a Super Bowl that you didn't participate in. So you can go around and be like, yeah, I got a Super Bowl ring. And as soon as you get that next question, oh, cool. How did you do? Well, I mean, that bench was super warm. Like, so, I mean, it would be tough to even have any bragging rights on a ring that you really didn't help. Right. So I would rather be a legend and open up a lot of doors down the line than sit on a roster, potentially really not make any money, and have a ring you can't actually talk about.
I really think it's a personality question, to be honest with you. I mean, just getting to know you, I think I knew your answer before I even asked it of you. I looked at some of the responses that I saw from the question. And I don't know everybody on Twitter, but I know some folks, and I got a chance to be around them enough to understand their personality. And a lot of them chose the latter. They want to be an NFL bench warmer, holding their headset like Chase Daniel, which is a great example of holding their headset and having millions and millions of dollars doing so.
Sure.
Yeah, like
that only
worked. He had no chance to get on the field when Drew Brees was active and playing. He had no chance. I mean, zero.
Sure.
Drew Brees had been out on a stretcher for him to play, but he stood there. And I don't know how many years it's been in his career now, but the man's making 6-7 figures doing exactly that, holding the headset. So most of the folks that are answering want that money, and that's all they really care about. They don't care about the other part. So, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, so the thing is if you were a second string quarterback, that's very different than being, the way I read that question of being way down the depth chart, right?
Oh yeah.
Because as a second string quarterback, you're still making actual money, right? But if you are a third string linebacker, you're not even necessarily making the 53-man roster all the time, right? Because although there's 53, there's only 46 on game day. So you could be making a $50,000 check to watch the game on TV. I mean, so that's one of those, it would depend on your position. Like if you were a backup quarterback, sure, yeah, you want to be in the league because you're still going to get a play. I mean, at the end of the day, everybody gets hurt. So
yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Fair
because I read the question as starter versus bench warmer, which is like that's good in anything, but it doesn't really mean a whole lot in the big scheme. Unless we're talking about something specific on who's backing up Dalvin Cook.
Sure,
that guy's going to play.
Yeah, well, and that's why I read it as like a deep on the depth chart. Right. That's the way I read it, because if you're second string, you're in every game. Right. Because even if the lead guy doesn't get hurt, nobody plays every play. Right. Like there's scenarios where people come out. And so, yeah, do you play a lot? Yeah, probably not. But you're still getting to contribute to the team. I read it more as you are the clipboard warrior that never puts his cleats on the field. And that it's like, yeah, you get paid, but I mean, you don't have a career you can talk about. I mean, so prime example of that is you have backup quarterback Kurt Benkert, right? Who he backed up Aaron Rodgers, and he was the third string backup. I think he played in the league for 5 years. He had, I think it was 5 years. He basically went through his rookie contract and then had like a 1 year extension or something. I think he's out of the league now, but But the big thing is his entire NFL career was, I think it was like 3 kneel downs, and there might have been an incomplete pass, or maybe he completed. I have no idea. But that's the point, is you have no idea. And he got money, but at the end of the day, if someone's asking you about your NFL career, you'd be like, yeah, man, I killed it at practice. Right? I mean, so, but I do get the element of you were in the league, right? So you took it to the highest level, and and I can't fight that standpoint at all. I wasn't able to make it that far. But if it's the difference between being on the field and nobody even knowing that you had a career, man, that's tough, because then post football, which comes fast, right? Most people's careers are not super long in football. You have a lot of post career things to think about. And if you were a absolute legend in the XFL, USFL, one, you probably got a shot in the NFL at some point. And two, even if you didn't win a ring at that level, you were dominant at that level, and then it opens so many doors post career. Man, it's tough to want to go against that. And even if they were chasing dollars in the beginning, there's so many back end dollars you can still get.
Yeah, absolutely. This is that question, like I said, hit me immediately as a personality question. If someone is really fixated on having notoriety and being the guy, I mean, my grandson plays football, and I've been to a couple of his games, and I've actually seen how they approach coaching. I mean, these kids are like 10, 11, 12, and they're approaching like these guys are in college. So I'm like, teach them teamwork, teach them sportsmanship, teach them camaraderie, work together. Teach them who can run the fastest, who can get open and burn a guy and take the defender out of his shoes. That's the plan. Hope isn't the strategy. That's what you're shooting for. So sometimes when you have people who are faced with this kind of question like this one, like I just asked, some people want notoriety. They're going to pick the XFL, USFL situation or option because they want to be the guy on a highlight reel. Maybe ESPN might pick up, what I'm saying? And they want to be, so all their friends, you know what? Look how I smoked that guy. It had a pick six. I mean, that's what they're thinking about. Some folks with stability. Their family situation is really messed up. They want to have they want to have stability financially for people who are not on the field. People who are real need. So those answers come. They're based on personality. They're based on personal situations. It's not all about being the burn on the team and the number one guy and the wide receiver one. Some of it's about, I need this money fast because my people are suffering where they are. I got to get them out of where they live at into a safe environment. Things like that. There's a whole bunch of dynamics with that question. But go ahead, Bo. What do you think?
So there's a caveat to that, though. One, in the NFL, your rookie contract isn't much money. But two, because you said being the guy, right? Now, as a kid, if you love sports, right? Like you love sports, you mean to tell me that there's 3 seconds left in your mind, you're playing basketball by yourself, and you're passing the ball? Is that how that works? Because that never happened for me. 3, 2, 1. I'm the guy.
Come on, bro. Okay, so that's a whole different question now. Different question now. Now we go to a whole different place because some people have a support mentality.
Sure.
Now,
I was a
NBA is different because
guy.
in the NBA, it's just twofold. Some people do that because they don't have confidence in their shooting ability, so they're going to pass the ball, or they're being told to by LeBron.
But in your backyard, that's not what's going through your head.
Okay, fair enough. So in the backyard, on the streets, where they play ball all the time. Okay.
No. But
if I was open, I wanted the shot.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
If it's open, I want the shot. If we're sitting there playing stick ball, baseball, whatever it was, and I'm at the plate, and I got a man on second and third, and This is for the game. We're tied 8-8. I'm going to look at that pitch like, you know what? This is our mirror. This is going to be what's going to help us win the game. That's different than what you're talking about, man.
No, it's exactly that. That's the mentality of every athlete ever.
Every athlete ever?
Yeah. There's 0 kids playing in their yard that's thinking they're home plate, full count, bases loaded, that they're not taking it yard. They're not like, damn, I'm going to strike out.
I'm with you on that one. We can deep, but whose fault is that really, though? Whose fault is it really? Is that ESPN and Fox Sports fault? Because it only shows highlights?
No, people are competitive.
They don't show the work that gets done, the plays and the picks. They don't really show that. They focus on the guy that hit the three.
Even if you're playing football with your friends in the backyard, you're practicing the over the shoulder fingertip, right? Like you're.
I know, man. I know. I think full disclosure, I'm with you on that one. I'm a win. I'm still a win. I still want to win, even though I don't play anything competitive anymore because my body's not allowing me to do that. That part's over. But
I'm with you.
I don't know if it's right now or if it was back then. I have somewhat of a support mentality.
Sure.
I love to be the guy that is, I guess, the decoy that opens our team up to win, to score a touchdown because focusing on me. That don't bother me though.
No.
Maybe it's now when I was a kid. When I was a kid, it might have been different. I own that part, but now, yeah.
Well, no, but see, you're actually in your scenario right there. You're still the guy because that means they're trailing you to open that other dude, right? Because if they're doubling up on you, that's how that guy's getting open. So, I mean, you're still the guy. You may not get the touchdown, but you're the reason that play happened, right? So even in your mind, being the facilitator, you're still the guy, right?
I didn't mention this scenario because I was trying to be the guy. Put it like that. That wasn't my intention. I wasn't trying to make myself out to be the savior.
No, but I mean, and I even get it. So like in basketball, right? Like I'm not tall. I was always a perimeter shooter, right? I'm 5'10". Okay. A lot of my friends were 6'5". So I'm not driving on them, right? And so it's one of those where I was always a 3-point shooter. So I'm somebody that would dish the ball, right? Or a catch and shoot kind of scenario. But I
tried to drive the lane. I didn't care.
Yeah, well, but in your fleeting seconds of the game, in your mind, you're like 3, 2, 1, swish at the buzzer. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm not driving in the last 2 seconds of the game. I'm not trying to drive against them 6'4" dude. I'm gonna go ahead and try to shoot.
I mean, I could even jump. Like I could even jump. Like there's a diamond that I could dunk a basketball even at 5'10". But at the end of the day, like a dude that's 6'5", like I got to get way up to get over that dude. So yeah, I just hung out at the 3-point arc.
Definitely, man. I love this, man. I want to get back into the minor league for a second because I know that we were talking about, the people who are in post-career and trying to figure their life out. And I'm just wondering, what's the bridge? Because let me rephrase the question. What's the bridge between the minor leagues becoming successful based on from where they are right now? Because it's kind of hard to see. We have a lot of history, like you said, the AAF, the Arena League, and there's a couple of Mexican leagues too. I think I researched earlier. There's so many. And
the USFL already failed once before. Actually, XFL did too.
Under Mr. McMahon and the He Hate Me era, it was not great. It wasn't great at all. But we have to figure out how does it work? Because the minor league baseball, they only go so far. I feel like they have a cap on them. They can't extend but so far. I don't know if it's financially rated. I'm not sure what it is, but they can only go but so far. It's like what do they do? I mean, in basketball, they have to go overseas to get action in a lot of cases. That's considered their minor leagues, I guess it is. But in this case, what's the bridge? How do they get to the place where where it works.
So
it's a true minor league.
Yeah, it's different. And why it's different is because baseball, especially in baseball, is every major league team has like 3 minor league teams, right? They got their single A, double A, triple A teams, right? And they all have a bunch of games. And so there's no way that TV coverage is going to follow all those teams, especially when you figure you have all the MLB teams that you have and 162 game season. Like that is an insane amount of games to already cover. So those minor league guys, they don't get the TV contracts because at the end of the day, nobody's watching AAA baseball when you have major league baseball, right? So when you're looking at the XFL, USFL, where they have some ability to be successful, is there's a lot of people that like football that aren't huge basketball fans. They aren't huge baseball fans. And the fact that these are spring league helps that because then the league, the NFL's done for the year. So if they want their football fix, that's it. Like that's your options. And so it lends a little bit
right now.
Yeah, that's right now. So the problem that they're having right now is they're not really getting tons of talent that could go to college and skipping it and going there like the G League is starting to get because the G League's been around for a little while now. There's kids that are not going to college. They're just going straight into the G League. So if these leagues were able to, get some sustainability, get some notoriety, they have kind of shaky TV contracts, right? And then because they're newer leagues, there's no international contracts at all. So like down here in Mexico, unless you have a station from the US, you don't get to watch the XFL or USFL. You have to have ESPN Plus or something like that to even be able to watch it. There's no normal network that you get to see these games. So if the leagues can get some sustainability, then they can negotiate some better TV contracts. And if they can get some more advertising money coming in, then you'll see those leagues grow into, rather than being 8-team leagues to, being a 12 or 16 teams. So now all of a sudden you're bringing more of the country into it, right? So, I mean, as it sits right now, especially with it's the USFL, they play in 2 locations, I think, right? So they have 8 teams, but they only play in 2 cities. And
I think I missed that, man. Where are they playing?
I
missed that one.
I'll have to look it up to make sure that's true. But
I thought they were playing in the stadium of the NFL teams, no?
So they are, but I think they're only playing in 2 locations though. So even though there's, 8 teams, they're traveling to those locations to play games. And I'll have to look to see if that's still true. I know it originally was starting that way. So maybe that
looks like. Let me cut it real quick. It looks like. So for example, the Marlins and the Panthers played yesterday. They played at Ford Field. So that's one spot to play at in Detroit. The other one's at Protector Stadium in Birmingham.
Yeah, so Birmingham was one of them.
And then they got Simmons Bank Liberty Stadium in Memphis.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if there's any more than that, but those 3 I see right off the top right now. Oh no, there's another one in Canton, Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium. So I guess they play at 4 places so far.
So even still, right? You're at that point, you're 4 cities. You got 8 teams. That leaves a lot of the U.S. Right?
Yeah.
That leaves a lot of places not represented. So like the XFL, Seattle, for example, they have a team, and the USFL they don't. So which league are people from Seattle probably going to follow? XFL. You got a team, right? If you're in a location that doesn't have a team, are you going to follow the sport? Yeah, maybe not. You got to really love football at that point because you don't have one that's going to represent wherever. So I mean, it's one of those things that if they can continue to grow and get those TV contracts, because honestly, that's how all these leagues really, make money. It's not by ticket sales, it's advertising dollars. So if they can grow and become sustainable in their own right, then you'll start to see the quality of those games get better, because you're going to see more of those D1 kids take that leap to go over there instead of college, or if they get rid of the amateurism rule during college, or once their, eligibility is gone, they'll come down. I mean, so as the league continues to grow and shows that they can actually pay players, which is where the AAF really went down, you'll see a lot more higher talent kids go that route.
Okay. Well, I got a couple more questions. Just all the stuff just spark stuff for me. I don't know if we have enough time to finish it, but we can. But I'm just wondering, was that the intent of the XFL and USFL to even be a minor league in the first place? Was that the whole idea? Because if you were undrafted free agent, I get the point of it then, because if you can't make the team and you've been on the practice squad and you've been there for a minute, and then when you start making cuts, you're one of them. Yep. I get why going to the XFL and USFL is good. It's going to keep you playing football, the sport you love.
Yep.
Make a little bit of money in your pocket, perhaps a little bit of exposure, and kind of keep your dream alive. It might be on life support. I get that part. But was it for college though, to go to the college player to go to the XFL and USFL? Was that the point of that? To be a minor league in that sense?
Well, so it might make sense for a kid that can't really afford college but isn't on scholarship. So then if they could go make 60 grand or something like that at an XFL team or something like that, if you keep their eligibility, then they can pay for college. Right? So there's a lot of D1 kids that don't fall in that, they're D1 talent, but they're, second string or whatever. So they're not on scholarship. So if they could open it up so that they could maybe actually make some money playing the sport, get better, work on their craft, and gives them the ability to also complete their degree. I mean, at this point with the NIL, the kids are getting paid anyway. Just take the amateurism out of it. Let them try and make some money. And at the end of the day, those kind of kids getting into the league will help the quality of the product that you see. Because let's be honest, in the XFL and the USFL, there's one or two teams that are pretty decent, and there's a lot of bad football that you watch. Like there's a lot of drop passes.
Some of my Saturdays are pretty rough. I'm like, whoa,
right? Like you're yelling at your TV and you don't care about either team. You're just like, holy crap, how did you not catch that ball?
I didn't realize there were so many comments, man. I mean, I could be a technical issue, could be me. I had a couple of people who answered some of the questions for us.
Oh, funny. Pop them up. Pop them up on the screen.
I was trying to do that, but it wasn't happening. So I'm like, I don't know. This is the fun of being live,
Oh yeah.
I'm like, what am I? Oh, I know why I failed. Okay, my bad.
There we go.
All right. So
yep,
you're gonna be off some buddies of mine that do an incredible podcast. Matter of fact, every Monday at 8:00 EST.
Oh, nice.
Urban Raj podcast. They're talking about getting your money when you can, because schools are making a lot. We know that part. We've been talking about that for a little while. I want to get to that. One of the things also that we got here was NIL mirrors real life though. The high profile position get more. Totally understand that part. Here's one of the things I didn't know about that we get enlightened. Thanks, Urban Raj, for this. Female country gets $150,000 in NIL deals. That to me is amazing.
That is amazing.
That's a lot of money.
That is.
Now I'm going back to what we were talking about earlier, and I'm wondering now. I'm like, maybe the LaGuardia guy can get six figures.
I mean,
maybe Dickinson's argument is valid. If a cross country runner at Duke gets 150, why can't he get $100,000?
Yeah,
his defense is trash, but maybe he can get $100,000. I mean, why not? Look at this one. This is crazy.
Some of these also get bigger numbers, not necessarily just because of their play on the field, but because of their following, right? Based on their Twitter and their IG and all of that, because these advertisers, they want their sphere, right? They don't really care about the athlete. It's all about making money. Let's be honest. So if they have someone that has a huge following, they'll probably get more on an NIL deal than somebody that is just, an average athlete but doesn't really do anything.
It's interesting because Duke is not really, they're not known for their country. You understand? I'm just trying to find when does it stop? Because that's my question. Because if Duke is putting out $150,000 now for a cross country winner, I'm sure she's awesome. No offense to the young lady, but at what point when does it stop? Now, do we have an NIL for ping pong tournaments too? Ping pong championships? I mean, is that what we had?
If you're good enough,
make a sport. It's like yeah. I'm just wondering. It sounds like it's unlimited money. Like it can't be unlimited, is it? It has to be a cap.
I mean, it's not, but it is in a way. I mean, think of how much. Think of how much. Well, I mean, like Fox Sports, I think spent, it's like $2 or $3 billion on their next TV contract with the NFL. So I mean, the money's there. So if these advertisers want to pay these kids, I mean, the money's there, right? The bigger the company, the more advertising budget they have. And that's why I said at the beginning, they got to figure out how to regulate it in some way, because otherwise it's just going to be kind of a mess. I do agree that it mirrors real life to some degree, but I feel like it would create some dissension within the organization having that kind of disparity. Because at the end of the day, they are there to go to school, right? So, I do feel like it would almost be better if the school was just paying the kids and there's a range for position groups and, kind of go from there.
Okay. I wanted to, we talked about it a little bit, but we didn't totally flesh it out. I wanted to end the episode with that last question. Do you got the 3 teams ready, or do you need more time with that one?
3 teams? Yeah. I'll let you go first.
No.
All right.
Too long. I'm too invested. Let's try 1 team. 3 teams. We'll be another hour and a half.
So you were saying fixing. What's that?
How would you fix your team that's underperformed? I said big market, but how would you fix it?
Yeah. So fixing big market.
Comments, if you have any comments. Everybody listening out there, if you have any comments, feel free to chime in. How would you fix your teams that are underperforming or they got opportunities for growth? How would you fix them instantly and quickly?
So there's kind of a theme really with underperforming, especially big market teams, and it's generally the ownership group, right? Because at the end of the day, the Browns haven't been losing because they're the Browns. They're losing because they do dumb stuff in the front office all the time. Because when you've looked at that roster, when you've looked at that roster, there's been plenty of times that they've been a good team on paper, but between the coaching and moves in the front office, they just never equated to wins, right? So for the Browns to finally win championships, they went to Baltimore. And that wasn't even the team I picked.
It's true.
That's not even the team I picked. I picked the Chargers. And, it was a scenario where they just didn't want to really spend money. They're not even the best team in their own city at this point. When you go to a Chargers game, it's generally an away game for them. Like you see everyone else's jersey in that stadium.
You mean all the fans went away?
Yeah.
Seats,
so they went away maybe because they moved cities. But if you want to go to the same parallel, the Clippers are also not the best team in their own city. And,
that's not why.
Even when they're good, nobody goes to the game.
Man. LA.
Yeah.
They got stuff to rather do than go to the games. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Only why I think people go to Lakers games, this is my personal opinion. Lakers fans, don't hate me. Opinion on my show. My right? It's still America, right?
Yep.
So with the Lakers, the only way they come to the games it's the cool thing to do.
Exactly.
We put cameras on all the time. the Kardashians, Nicholson. It's all it is. It's not because Clippers are so-called bad. They were doing great for a good chunk of the year. And all of a sudden, same with the Miami Marlins. They've been struggling with attendance for years now. You know why? Because it's Miami.
Well, yeah,
because there's so much and everything else that comes with it.
There's so
baseball game for 3 hours.
Well, there's so much to do. You don't want to watch a bad team, but the problem is even when they're good, they show up. If you are like,
the Clippers were good, people will show up the Clippers. You seen it.
They've been good, but the problem is they've been bad for so long that as soon as they lose a game or two, they're like, I'm out. And the stadiums they'll still have a winning record on the season, and they'll drop a couple of games, people stop showing up. So it's interesting. And then there's teams like, so my third team was the Washington Commanders, a Redskins, Washington football team, or whatever you want to call it this year.
You like these people?
What's that?
You like them?
No. It's just a big market team that is stupid. So
you got teams that you actually like, man. I'm sorry. I misunderstood our game. We got to try it again next time.
Yeah. I mean, if we're talking about my teams, the Hawks have been, really smart in the things that they've done.
That's what I want to hear. Bring that on, man. Let's talk about the Hawks.
Yeah. So, I mean, you were asking about a failing big market team, and Seattle isn't failing or, technically a big market. But no, I mean, the Hawks incredibly smart things over the last couple of years. Moving on from Russ made a ton of sense. It actually made sense to do it a little bit earlier than they did. But, Gino stepping in, have to admit, I was completely wrong on that. I thought they were going to end up starting, Drew Lock, because we thought we knew what Gino was, right? Like, we'd seen him for a decade. He's been a perennial backup. When he's played, he's been
I see him too.
Right? Like, he's been okay, but it wasn't anything that you're like, yeah, he's our dude. So I guessed wrong on that. So good on Gino. He came out and balled out, had the best QBR in the league. Like, awesome. So then they build a team around him, which is really smart. And they built it in a way that they know works, because they spent a lot of time this offseason building that defense. And if we know anything about Seattle defense, 13-14, top in the league, going to Super Bowls. So if you got a coach, that's the way he coaches, and he builds an offense around rushing. So last draft, they pick up 2 tackles. This draft, they get a new center, a new guard. They pick up a second really dynamic running back, which was really funny to me because a lot of people kind of gave them a lower grade on their draft because they picked up a running back, despite the fact that their running back room only had 2 athletes in it. It had DJ Dallas and Walker, and they haven't had a starter. Yep, he was there. But beyond that, they haven't had a starting running back not hit IR since 2014. So when people were downgrading the draft because they picked up a running back late second round, which incidentally is right where K9 was picked up last year. I found it really interesting that people were hating on that pick because Seattle just cannot keep a running back healthy. One of the years in there, they actually lost 3 running backs to IR within 2 weeks. That being said, now they have 2 really dynamic guys. DJ Dallas is a very serviceable guy. And then they picked up a 4th one. I think he was an undrafted free agent. So, I mean, it's they're rebuilding in a way that looks very reminiscent of the early, teens Seahawks, which is encouraging.
I'm excited to see that. I wish we had more time, man. I think we got to come back to that question along with the other 4 questions we had that we didn't touch yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Come back to that. I want to give everybody a chance. Bo, thanks for coming on again, man. Appreciate the insight and the knowledge, man. This is the most fun I had in a while with our show, so thank you for doing that, man. Our listeners on your show, man. Share your handles with us, and how can they find you?
Yeah, so absolutely. Thanks for having me on. This is a ton of fun. And then, you can find me under my picture there. You can see my Twitter handle, chat with people pretty much all the time about sports. And then my YouTube channel is football-talk. Super easy to find me. So that's pretty much where I'm at. I'm either on my channel, visiting channels like this, or on the Let's Talk Sports Network.
Let's go, baby. I appreciate it, man. We're going to do this again soon. I think this is this could be a beginning of a awesome opportunity, man. Thanks for the time and the opportunity here to meet with you and get to know you a little better. Appreciate it a lot, man. But guys, thanks again for joining our show, wherever you are and have you listen to the Mr. You the podcast. Thank you for making us a small part of the morning, your day, and your week. We're your weekly mirror check before you go change the world. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and the Twitter. Download, subscribe to our shows and Football Talk with Bo, wherever you enjoy your podcast. Have a great day. Thanks again for joining us. Coach out.
Have a good one, guys.